Hello there, and welcome to Derry. It is my pleasure to be podcasting for you. I'm Steve Barnes from Sweet Shot of Time, and I'm here with my co-host from one of my stories. It's trouble coming your way, trouble, Lindsey Dunn. Ahoy there, Lindsey. Trouble there, Lindsey.
Ahoy, we're in troubles, Steve.
I love that we have trouble. Like they hype the Music Man so much in this episode. That's one thing I can say from the get-go that I loved about this episode.
Yeah, the Music Man was featured in this episode prominently, and us musical theater kids are loving it.
I was thinking that you were probably really into that whole production. Like, I was surprised that they added it in there. I was also surprised by how much the Music Man ties in with the story of it, so perfectly. I don't know. I want to get into the show properly, but first I want to ask, because I had a lot of expectations about this show. It had a lot of hype. So did it live up to the hype for you, Lindsey? How did it meet your expectations?
I thought it was a strong start with a brutal hit of an opening, really. I was floored by this first episode. We know so little about our opening character, but the details we learn are clear and provocative enough to let us feel empathy for this kid, Maddie Clements. And the shocker of an ending lets us know that no one is safe. Mm-hmm. The deaths that occurred subvert expectations. So it was a strong beginning for this show.
Yeah, I think when it comes to meeting expectations and living up to the hype, it definitely did its job. Tonally and thematically, yes, it did definitely meet the expectations that I had for this. And I think when it comes to hype, people were expecting something scary and something, Pennywise, maybe a little campy. Because I kind of consider the horror that we saw in this episode a bit campy. And I think that is kind of what people were looking for, was looking for something to be shocking, something to be Stephen King-ish. And I think this show definitely gave it to us. Mm-hmm. There's some things about the show that I don't like. My enjoyment level was pretty moderate. I was not floored the way you were. However, I did laugh out loud. I did enjoy myself. I didn't dislike it, but I don't exactly have a ringing endorsement for the show at this point.
Well, that's sad, Steve. I hate to hear that, but you used the phrase that it met expectations, mm-hmm. and I feel that it went against our expectations in that we thought we were getting our new Losers Club, and that didn't end up panning out. And it was more, I don't know, I remember last week you mentioned the character Ray, for instance, that he mm-hmm. might be part of our new Losers Club. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, Ray's not, because I don't want to see him ever again.
Wait, did I miss Ray? Who's Ray now?
Ray, he was the kid in the car, the little boy that spells.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Ray was another classmate of theirs that we're going to meet on a later episode.
That's
perhaps.
That's what you. One of the things you thought was you mentioned. I know there's a character Ray,
right?
And Ray was in the trailer. He's in the car. Okay. Or he might have been in some of the publicity for the show, a picture of him, and you saw the name Ray, and you're like, oh, this might be one of our new kids. And we met Ray, but Ray wasn't what I thought he was going to be. I thought Ray was going to be in trouble, not part mm-hmm. of the trouble.
I know, he personified Pennywise for a moment there when his eyes got all kooky. He looked like Pennywise in that moment. We didn't get our Losers Club, so to speak, but we did get a lot of one-to-ones. I saw a lot of Richie and this Phil character, and that kid Maddie had a stuttering situation. And there are all these direct parallels to the Losers Club that are really hard to miss. So we didn't get our Losers Club. You're right about that. But we did get a lot of characteristics of the Losers Club that have carried over into this show. They're all pretty clear, in my opinion.
We had a pre-Losers Club, but it was not meant to be. When half of the potential Losers Club dies.
Yeah.
Spoiler warning, everybody.
Oh, well, full spoilers. A recap episode.
This is a recap show, yes.
You got to expect spoilers. Do people do like non-spoiler recaps? I think that'd be like a really hard thing to pull off.
I've tried to do when I've seen episodes early of like Cobra Kai, for instance, you have
Okay.
to talk about it without giving specific spoilers. You can say the characters are strong or the fights are really good in the first 2 episodes, but you can't give specifics. So there are sometimes, like I saw a lot of people doing, a lot of the critics that did, or I don't know if they were all critics, but YouTubers, whatever you want to say, that got early access to Welcome to Derry. There are 8 episodes. They were given the first 5 episodes. And so they were releasing show news or previews that were non-spoiler. But not everybody does a good job doing that because they end up giving away things without even meaning them, or because it is really hard, like you said, to talk about a show or to do any kind of honest review without kind of going into specifics.
I think when they give those shows like their early episodes and they allow them to do that type of thing, I think they probably have to like okay what they're going to publish online before it goes online to avert spoilers. I know like that's something that a lot of studios are really into. And when they give somebody a screener, like these days, it's going to have like the person's email address blazing on the bottom of the screen. Yeah, I don't know how they went about doing it. And I can't really speak much to that. I read a little bit of feedback that we have from the show, like on Reddit and on Discord. But because of a busy day at work, I just haven't had a lot of time to really dive into like a lot of other recaps and reviews, which honestly, that's what I like to do before I podcast to be prepared. In this case, I prepared by looking at my own notes, reviewing the source material, and collaborating with some people on Discord. I'm going to move our section over a little bit now. I'm going to move on to our feedback and corrections section. So I didn't have any feedback from last episode, besides like there's some chatter happening on the Bald Move Discord, which is a podcast that I'm a fan and a Patreon of. They're not covering it, but they do have a thread on their Discord that a lot of people are talking about it, myself included. So there's a little bit of feedback from that, but I wanted to kick it to you first. Did you have any feedback from last episode?
I did, Steve. I did have feedback. I'm in a horror meetup, and we had a Halloween party on Saturday, and I had posted our recap in that group. And so this friend from the group, her name's Deb. Say hi to Deb.
What's up, Deb? What did you dress up as, Deb?
She was... I think she's like a necromancer of some kind. I probably got that wrong. I'm not up on my costumes, but she was carrying like a Necromicon thing. So she wanted to give her input about our discussion about the magical Black character. Deb is Black, and she let me know that we Black fans of Stephen King have basically forgiven him for that. Stephen King didn't fully invent the magical Black character, but he was the one that popularized it, and he did it enough times that people noticed and gave him a little rap on the knuckles. But she said she'd had discussions with her friends, and they had come to the conclusion that Stephen King must have met some Black people in his life, and the ones he knew he held in very high regard. So he wrote these characters, and that's why they're all special people. That's why they're all very special people. And she basically told me, we've forgiven him. We don't hold a grudge about it. And so I thought that was nice to hear. If you're listening, Stephen King, you've been forgiven. Now, of course, there's always the saying, we're not a monolith. So Deb wasn't saying I speak for all Black fans of Stephen King, but she wanted to tell me that in her circles, it's okay. It's okay, Stephen.
Yeah, like I said on last episode, in my research, I've always come upon the same thing as well, that it's something that he recognizes himself, and he has kind of tried to course correct a bit. And we do got to realize this guy comes from Maine, which is like historically the whitest state in America. Sometimes it's Vermont, but usually it's Maine. So he doesn't come from a very diverse population. So I think that he is kind-hearted, and I think his heart's in a good place, but I think that he did kind of elevate these types of characters. And Deb recognizes this. I'm glad that Deb is okay with it. I know, like you said, not a monolith. So I know not everybody shares that opinion, but I think it all comes from a place of like him wanting to be kind-hearted and wanting to be inclusive.
Well, at the time too, that we have to remember that historically there haven't been a lot of Black characters, and the ones that were in books were stereotypes, or they weren't just fully fleshed out people. They were usually in service of the plot that was benefiting a white character.
Gotcha.
So the fact that Stephen King had these characters was maybe they weren't done well, but at least he tried. And he's had gay characters. He's had obviously female characters, and some of them are more fleshed out better than others, but he put them in his books. And over time, people have been able to say, hey, let's do better. Maybe have Black authors write Black characters so they can be more authentic. And that's all good. But at least he included these characters in his books, even if it wasn't done 100% the best.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. The second piece of feedback she had was about the show that I was trying to remember. Now, I had contacted you this week because I was saying, oh, this reminds me of this other TV show that was on a few years ago. And I was like, maybe it's Welcome to Lovecraft Country. But it turns out that was wrong. Oh. The show was called Them.
Yeah, okay. We watched that recently.
It's an Amazon original. It came out in 2021. And it's about a family who moves from North Carolina to East Compton during the Great Migration in the 1950s. So that's the name of the show. And I looked it up today to kind of see, oh, is this a show? I'm not saying I didn't finish the show because I found it. And I remembered, too, that it was labeled as Black trauma porn. So a lot of critics didn't like it. They did like season 2 better than season 1, which I think may have been a separate character arc. Like it might have been season 1 is a separate from season 2. Maybe you know more about it. But so I'm not recommending you watch the show, but I'm just saying that she wanted to say that was the name of the show that I could not remember last week.
Yeah, because you told me it was Welcome to Lovecraft in our text messages. And so like now I know it's a third show. So these are all great shows. I didn't have any specific feedback. I do have some feedback for Andy and Barbara Muschietti, because like you said, Stephen King's listening. So Andy and Barbara are listening too, because something that they said that based on the ending of this episode, Welcome to Derry, episode 1, they said that this was their red wedding, that this is a phrase people use. It's from Game of Thrones. There was a scene called the Red Wedding that happened in season 3. And it was just an episode where a horrible massacre occurred and it took everybody by surprise. And it was a big bloody death that just kind of shocked everyone because it just came out of nowhere. So that's my feedback is Andy and Barbara, this is not a red wedding situation because this is not episode 3. And even though we were surprised that the lead characters did succumb this episode, I think it's more of I would say it's more of a Hurt Locker situation, where in the Hurt Locker, it was billed as like a George Clooney movie. And so when you went into the theater, when the movie came out, like George Clooney is like front billed and he's like in a lot of the scenes in the beginning of the movie. And you think this is going to be a George Clooney movie. And in the first 5-10 minutes, he dies. And then it becomes, it is not a George Clooney movie. So I think that this is more like a Hurt Locker situation where we thought these were going to be our lead characters, or at least, 2 of them, 3 of them, and then they die in the first episode unexpectedly. So that's just because Andy and Barbara are super good looking doesn't mean they can say that, it's the red wedding. I don't agree with that.
I think for some people, maybe it didn't hit you as hard, but I think they really made you like these 2 characters. Not saying that the other characters, the girl characters that survived, weren't interesting, but they really did a lot to make you kind of be drawn to Phil and Teddy. So having them not make it, I think, was kind of shocking for a lot of people.
Yes.
Somebody said that
Hurt Locker shocking.
Or Marion Crane shocking? I don't know. That's another one that maybe is the character of Psycho that dies in the shower.
Yep.
It's like nobody
Yes.
expected. That was maybe the first time that a main character doesn't survive a horror movie that way, because we were following her the whole time. And I even remember first time I watched Psycho, I thought, oh, she's going to come out of the trunk. I don't know. I was so sure that his ploy was not successful, that somebody's going to find the car, get in the trunk. She was going to be okay, because it seemed so unfathomable.
Yep.
That, and this was in 1993, 94. I was a senior in high school. This was the first time I saw this movie on late night TV on a Friday night. So I was just watching this movie for the first time and going, there's no way that Marion Crane doesn't make it.
Yeah, that's an even more apt description there. I think it's more of a Hurt Locker situation, but that's okay. I wanted to make another correction. I think last episode we mixed up Mike and Will, which is easy to do. I think one time we said Mike when we should have said Will, or vice versa. That's going to happen when we go forward, because we have a lot of Stephen King universe characters. A lot of them have the same last name, but they don't all have the same first name. So apologies for that, but we'll do our best to get it right.
Yeah, Mike, because of the time, Mike is not going to show up in this show at all. He's not born yet.
I wouldn't expect him to. That's right. I mean, they are playing fast and loose with the years and with the ages, so you never know. Mike might just wander up and be a librarian one day. Yeah. But I wanted to say, last time I was talking about the Stephen King universe and all the different stories that tie in with it, I forgot to mention Insomnia, Dr. Sleep, and Dreamcatchers. Someone on Discord was kind enough to point that out to me, that those three stories also take place in the same Derry universe. Derry pops up in these stories. And actually, even Adrian Mellon, the kid who dies in the movie he dies like in the present day, so to speak. He's in I don't know if he is, but he comes up, his name comes up in the book Insomnia. Mm-hmm. Just one more tie-in. That's enough for research and corrections. I want to have some fun now, Lindsay. I want to have a little game. This is a game we play around Easter time. This is a little game I want to play.
You're not called in the right season, Steve.
Well, I'd like us to pretend that, because Halloween, we can dress up and we can pretend we're other things. We're going to pretend it's Easter. We're going to have an Easter egg hunt, Lindsay. Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk about all the cool Easter eggs that we found in this episode, because they're going to be coming at us every single episode. And at my mom's house, when we used to do this, we would take turns, like, showing our eggs off. Like Charlotte would show off all her eggs. Caleb would show off all his eggs. We're not going to do it that way. I'd rather us go back and forth in twos. So do you want to give me your first two Easter eggs, and then I'll give two, and then we'll go from there?
Sure. My first one is Alvin Marsh's name on the bathroom wall.
Oh, I found that one too. Who is Alvin Marsh?
Who's Alvin Marsh? Well,
for the sake of our audience.
Beverly's dad. His name is, I guess it's, I honestly, I found that one online. I didn't see it in the episode. I looked for it in the bathroom scene, but is it his name in a heart? Is it a good comment or a bad comment?
In a heart, that means that somebody loves Alvin Marsh. That's that's gross. It's probably Beverly's mom, I guess. But yeah, in that scene, you can see it like over in like the far left-hand corner is where you see that sucker. But yeah, I saw that one too. What other Easter eggs did you see?
Okay, my second one I'll say is the Derry standpipe. That was one of the locations, and I didn't expect that it was going to feature so prominently in the show, that so many of the scenes actually are going to take place in the standpipe. And this is a big deal because the standpipe has been mentioned, and it's the place where Stan encountered it for the first time, I guess, like a visible sighting. Yeah. But no movie or show has ever been filmed at the standpipe so that you see it. So that was kind of exciting that's where the kids were going, that had the awesome view of Derry.
I think that was the best Easter egg of all that you found right there. I mean, you got the golden one. Because, it's never been featured. They always feature the sewers and the barrens. And I think it's really wise to go up in your locations and like you can see everything high up. It seems unlikely that they would have access to this. But I mean, this is the land of fiction. So of course I'll forgive it. But I mean, it's a great spot to watch 4th of July fireworks from. It's an awesome spot and it's not scary at all. I thought the standpipe was supposed to be scary and it looks like a lot of fun to me.
I think it's not scary yet, Steve, because the deck, you said this might not, the deck is open for views until the kids drown. And that's what makes them finally close it off, because kids drown inside the standpipe. And then it's considered a danger zone.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, you found the golden Easter egg there. I guess it's my turn. I got 2 of them here. Of course, I got way more than 2. Paul Bunyan. We didn't see the Paul Bunyan statue, but we kept seeing his name and we kept seeing his image everywhere. And the Uris family. We got to shout out the fact that, you know, Teddy is a Uris kid. He's definitely not Stan's dad because he's dead, but I assume that Teddy is Stan's uncle because we see, like, you know, Teddy's older brother, who's kind of a jerk. That's the only logical explanation I can see is, and then we see like some graffiti. We saw the graffiti somewhere. I think that was in the trailer referring to the like Uris family.
Teddy Urins, I think is what the graffiti said.
Yeah, that's what the bullies call them. Yeah, that's right.
Steve, were you watching with captions, or how did you determine that Teddy's last name was Uris?
Yes, I did watch with captions.
Okay, that's how I saw it.
And yes, it came up because his dad is Rabbi Uris.
Okay. Did they say Rabbi Uris in the show? I didn't remember that. Okay. About Paul Bunyan, we didn't see the statue because it hasn't been built yet.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be.
Yeah, I think it was in the paper, like, statue coming soon. So they're right now they're taxing everybody for Well, I only have 2 more, so I'll go ahead and share those, and if there's anything left, you can grab it.
All right.
So my last 2 are turtles. All the turtles. You gave us a really nice explanation of Maturin the turtle last week, and we saw a bunch of turtles that aren't called Maturin. They're just little turtles to advertise, duck, and cover.
Yep.
But one thing interesting about the turtle bracelet.
Of course.
Sorry. Oh, the bracelet is from a charm.
Yes.
And here's my thought. The turtle is the deity, and it's a protector. And poor little Maddie, in his desire to please his wannabe girlfriend, Lily, trades away his protector turtle for the rocket ship. And Lily survives at the end. She's one of the survivors. So is the turtle bracelet protecting Lily?
I'm nodding so hard my head's going to fall off.
I know. He's like one of those little jack-in-the-boxes. Okay, before I say my second one, did you want to comment about the turtles, Steve?
Oh, I'll have plenty more to say about the turtles as we go into the show. So you go on with your next Easter egg.
So my last one was Juniper Hill.
Yeah,
and
okay.
This is where Lily talks about she was staying for a bit. And it's not explicitly, we know that her dad has died. She's had maybe a little bit of a depression, kind of similar to Jonas, poor Jonas, after his dad died. So that she was staying there at Juniper Hill, and that's a pretty big Easter egg because that's where Henry Bowers was a patient, and a few other Stephen King characters too. I didn't write them all down, but Henry Bowers is the big one. So that was where he was staying after he gets washed out in the Barrens.
Speaking of like unfounded theories that are based on nothing, that's kind of like a fun theory that I came upon on the Discord, was that perhaps because of Lily's tie into Juniper Hill, and we know that Henry Bowers ended up in Juniper Hill and he was falsely accused of all these murders, I wonder if perhaps that might be Lily's fate. If maybe she'll go back to Juniper Hill as like a fake patsy for Pennywise, perhaps. That's not my original theory, but I thought that was worth mentioning. Is it time for the rest of my Easter eggs? I'll go rapid fire with mine because I got quite a few here. Matthew Clemens and Veronica Grogan themselves are 2 Easter eggs. They were both killed in the Derry books. Matthew was only 3 when he was killed. Veronica, or Ronnie Grogan, was 9 when she was killed. So they're obviously messing with the time a little bit here. The Creature from the Black Lagoon, we see a poster of the Creature from the Black Lagoon, which that is another big tie-in to the book because that is the form that it took when it killed Eddie Cochran. And there's a lot of similarities between this Matthew Clemens kid and Eddie Cochran. Other than that, yeah, you already named all these other ones that I have here. Yeah. So what did you have to say about the Music Man? Because that was a great tie-in that I said at the very beginning of the episode. I didn't mean to say anything about the Music Man, but it just spilled out of my mouth. What was your Music Man based Easter egg?
Oh, it's just a fun little thing about the Music Man. I don't know if people have seen the Music Man. How many people have actually spent time? It's a family favorite of the Dunns. I mean, I was going to wonder, I wonder if Heather's dad really liked the Music Man too, because of the whole music teacher tie-in. But if you don't know, it's a story about a con man that comes into the town and is trying to sell them band instruments, even though none of the kids play. And so he preys upon their different desires and gets them to open up. And so people were like, oh, he's like Pennywise. Yep. And Pennywise, sorry, not Pennywise. The character in Music Man, Harold Hill, he falls in love and tries to seduce this librarian. So people were saying, could we say that Pennywise is like Harold Hill and the librarian is like Mike Hanlon?
We could.
It's about him trying to seduce the town librarian. It works sort of in a way, but if you've never checked out the Music Man, you really should. And I'm definitely never going to hear that song again without really being creeped out. I think the Trouble song, Trouble here in River City.
Yeah, they even name drop Maine in that ditty too. And you'll know if you're going to like it or not because the viewers have already seen a few clips of Music Man. So, there's your spoiler right there for you. But yeah, not just the character in his comparison to Pennywise because he's trying to like coerce people to do things. But yeah, there's this line that caught my eye for sure. And it definitely sounds like Derry. And it says, friend, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you're not aware of the caliber of disaster. Mm-hmm. I mean, it sounds like the town folk of Derry have listened to the Music Man for sure.
Oh, one more thing about the Music Man before we move on from that, that I think is kind of makes it more of an Easter egg. But it's set early in the turn of the century, so 1912. Right. And we know we're going to go back to 1908 is going to be season 3. That's the earliest time period we'll go back to in Welcome to Derry so far with the cycles. So I was like, is this musical a favorite of Pennywise's or Bob, what did you say, Bob Gray?
Yeah, Bob Gray.
Because in my mind, I'm going over the trailer of the show, and I know at one point they show a picture of Bob Gray dressed up very similar to the Music Man. I think he's wearing a blazer with stripes. So I wonder if he sees himself as Harold Hill in a way.
I think he absolutely does. I mean, the tie-in is right here in this episode. Pennywise is loving it. And Pennywise, speaking of characters, I wanted to go into like our character-based discussion because that's how I kind of wanted to go with our discussion here. Mm-hmm. Want to have it more character-based. We're definitely going to be talking about who I see as our 3 main characters to discuss, which is Lily. I think a lot of our discussion is going to be based around her, Maddie, and Leroy. But other than the 3 of them, I wanted to talk about maybe some of our favorite characters and talk about some of these extra characters that might show up. So I think a good way to start this discussion is to see who you're digging. I've got a favorite adult and a favorite kid that I have in mind here. Do you have any favorite characters so far this episode or this season?
You're saying besides those 3?
If they're one of those 3, you're allowed to say that.
I mean, my personal favorites of this episode, I believe, are all kids.
Okay. Which kids?
So leaving those 3 alone, I'm going to say Ronnie Grogan.
Okay.
Teddy and Phil.
All right.
So 2 of those 3 did not survive.
Yeah.
So maybe we can talk about those 3 before we talk about the other 3.
Definitely. Let's talk about Ronnie first. She's the daughter of the theater runner, Ronnie Grogan. Veronica Grogan is what we call her. She's also Heather's favorite character. So you and Heather have that in common. Um,
Mm-hmm.
She was a victim in the book. She was found at right outside of 29 Diebolt Street, that old scary house, when she was 9 years old in a storm drain. But here she's 12 years old, sucking on 2 lollipops. She's like a double lollipop girl. Did you notice that she had 2 lollipops in her mouth, not just one?
I did not notice that. It was not counting her lollipops.
That was one of my notes here, 2 lollipops, because that blew my mind. I was like, you can put 2 lollipops in your mouth?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what was it about Ronnie that you dug?
I just thought she seemed really cool. You know, she covers for little little Maddie.
There you go.
And when her dad says, "Come on, let's get back to work," she has a sassy little skip to him. You know, sucking on her lollipop, just sauntering around like she owns the place. And we know that there's some racial tensions in the town, but she doesn't seem to be bothered by that. It did strike me that, you know, her dad, his name is Hank Grogan, her dad seemed to, even though I felt like it was hard to determine who's in charge. I mean, he was obviously the projectionist, like he's the one that puts the spools on. Yes. But yet it seemed like the white usher had seniority somehow because...
No.
Well, he was trying to tell that guy to leave him alone. And he was trying to. He just kind of ignored him. So that was, yeah. But they were kind of sharing movie banter, like who directed this movie. And I was like, I want to hang out with that family. You know, I want to talk movies with them. So I thought that was cool. And when these kids show up, she's a little guarded because the police keep coming around and framing, you know, trying to frame stuff on her dad. And I was kind of thinking, you know, we know that somebody's going to get framed and sent to Shawshank wrongly. So I'm wondering if he's going to be our Shawshank person.
Ooh, man.
But I'm upset to know that maybe she doesn't make it. I mean, you're saying in the book she's a victim. You know, who knows what they're going to do with her character in the show.
Yeah, I hope she sticks around too. Like I said, Heather loved her. Heather liked her because she was smart enough to use the hammer to smash the glass so she could escape from the projectionist booth instead of just like Maddie on the car window, just kind of like, oh, you know, you can smash that thing, buddy, get a weapon. And I'm pretty sure that when it comes to like those old school movie theaters, the projectionist has the upper hand over the ushers. Now he doesn't run the movie theater. I'm pretty positive that Grogan doesn't run that theater, but he is the movie guy. He's the guy that selects the movies, that projects them. And he's kind of like the face of I guess he's like the manager, you would say, because otherwise that usher would not have listened to Hank. Hank kind of had the last word in that conversation.
Only he went upstairs and then that guy took advantage of it.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess you're right. But I will say something about Ronnie and Hank, though. It seems so nice that they let little Maddie go, right? Oh, yeah, Ronnie's so cool. Well, what about the fact that, like, if Maddie hadn't gone free, he wouldn't have been kidnapped? Like, if the usher had his way, he would have called his dad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that if Hank really had to say, he'd be like, leave him alone, let him watch the movie, and that would be it. But somehow that wasn't enough. It's kind of one of those things like, you know, when you're working at a building and you have the janitor, and the janitor doesn't have any power, but the janitor actually has a lot of internal power. Like, if you're friends with the janitor, that's a good thing. Yeah, keys. He has a lot of power over that theater, and also he has enough sway that they allowed his daughter to work at the concession stand, who's not even of age to be working. I don't know what labor laws were like back then, but she's working at the theater during a time when, again, there's racial tension. So yeah, he somehow has pull there, but he may not have power.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. But I will say that, like, you know, if they had caught him and called Matt's parents, he might still be with us today. But
didn't you get the sense that maybe the Clement parents aren't exactly great parents?
Yeah. I mean, I saw he had a black eye at one point, and I know that, Grogan feels sorry for him.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. I just want to put some blame on them. That's
It's
all.
upsetting. It's upsetting. But yeah, I didn't get the feeling that the calling mom and dad Clement would be a good move, because they'd be like, what is my child doing in the movie theater? That little so-and-so, let me smack up his other eye, you know?
Sweet Shot of Time is brought to you by Zencastr. Zencastr is the way we record Sweet Shot of Time. We hook up with our guests via video and we record it on audio. Recently, we've been doing video podcasts with the cast of Time Bandits. It's easy using Zencastr. You can record video or audio. You can also edit your podcast or your video via Zencastr. Join Zencastr using my promo code Sweet Child of Time and you can get 30% off Zencastr. If you're ready to start your podcast, it's time to share your story. Share it with Zencastr. That promo code once again, Sweet Child of Time at Zencastr.com. You're also a fan of Phil and Teddy, eh?
Well, Phil was so funny. He was the comic relief. I don't have a lot to say about him, but he just made me laugh. He had all his theories about why men have nipples and how men might be breastfeeding if women all go extinct. I mean, he made me laugh. He was the Richie Tozier of this crew, you know.
Absolutely.
A very, you know, an opposite character in a lot of ways of Teddy, who's a very thoughtful guy. He's more soulful, has this terrifying vision of people in the lamps that he gets from having his dad's story that he shared at the kitchen table about our people surviving the Holocaust. That was pretty terrifying. One thing that struck me about him was actually about his brother, knowing this might be Stan's father. But I sort of had made a connection between these two brothers and the other two brothers, which is kind of sad. We know that Bill's younger brother, Georgie, gets taken by Pennywise, and then he feels guilt because he was maybe mean or unavailable to his brother that day. Sure. And here is Teddy's brother, which I was not able to find what his name was.
Yeah, me neither.
Is kind of being mean and sarcastic to his brother. How are we related? Mm-hmm. And here's Teddy is now going to be a missing kid. And the brother's probably going to feel some level of guilt for that. And I wondered if he will try to find out who kidnapped his brother. I'm guessing not, since his name isn't really credited on IMDb.
Well, so not yet.
Yeah, he's not going to be a main character, but I wondered if poor older bro Eurus is going to feel guilty for how he was kind of sarcastic to his brother the night before whatever he disappeared.
That's a great point, because when you first started talking about the comparison between them and Bill and Georgie, I was like, I don't see that comparison at all, because it seemed like Bill and Georgie were like hung out more. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like these two brothers did not hang out. But the whole guilt aspect and how like the night before his younger brother dies, his brother was screaming in his room and he made fun of him. So yeah, of course, he's got to feel horrible about that. I never thought about his perspective there. And that's a good point. You know, we know Lily carries a lot of guilt with her. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about Lily in a minute. Let me table that thought. And let me go back. Let me stick with the Eurus family here. You talked about the human skin lamp that attacked Teddy in a very pivotal scene here, because that's like really what brought the three kids together was that scene. But I thought it really tied in. I thought for sure that you were going to bring up the case of generational trauma here, because we talked about that last time. Mm-hmm. And you could see like when his dad, the rabbi, mentions the thing about, you know, how human skin was used for lamps, like Teddy is horrified and like the music takes a big definite drop to it. So obviously that image horrified him enough to make that his scare. And that's absolutely another case of generational trauma from like within the Jewish community. So I thought that was definitely worth mentioning.
I mean, I thought that too, and I still think it, but I guess me personally, I was feeling mopey because I was thinking maybe like the Hanlons all saw the bird, that the Eurus family was all going to see the same vision, and his vision was new. So I was like, stupid so-and-so, they didn't do what I thought that, you know. So, but it's fine. I mean, like that vision, that was one of the more visceral images for me. And
yes,
also it follows that I really liked that scene with the family all sitting there, because we don't, besides the messed up family at the beginning, it's really the only family scene we have in the show where you see like a full family that there's respect. It seems like between people. Now, the brother was being sarcastic and mean, but Teddy felt safe enough to mention his thoughts to his parents.
Yeah.
And they were kind of, they're like, oh, son, and they're doing Yiddish swears at him, but they also listened to him. And so and then so for him to have that vision that evening at the lamps, I do think there's generational trauma. I was just kind of hoping that he would have the weird lady painting.
Sure.
But besides the lamp being skin, people inside of skin, that was very creepy. But the lights did keep shutting off before that. And I think that was something that Stan went through, is he kept being put in the dark.
That's right.
Yeah.
He had a huge fear of the dark because that's where those dead kids showed up at the standpipe. It all ties in.
Yeah.
I guess we got to talk about my favorite characters now. Well, no. Did we talk about all yours? Phil, Teddy, Lily.
Oh, the only other thing I wanted to say about Phil is that his little sister, Susie, is his real sister. So I thought that was cute. Yeah,
the actor. Yeah, I saw that too.
They're real life brother and sister, and they play brother and sister in the show. I always think that's a fun little thing to do for a casting director. Yeah,
I love it too, because you're going to have that chemistry on set that exists in real life. I mean, I think it's a perfect choice.
But yeah, that leaves really the main three you were.
Well, no, I didn't say who my favorite characters were now.
I thought you already said at the beginning of this section.
No, I never said. I asked you who yours were.
Oh,
I said that my favorite character, I have one adult and one child are my favorite characters. And now I'm going to reveal them. The big reveal. Favorite adult so far is this Captain Russo individual who was Major Hanlon's buddy, the Italian guy that showed up with Leroy Hanlon. I love the way he's completely honest to everyone. Like when the captain asked them how the journey was, and you see the dichotomy between Leroy Hanlon and like he lies and says it was fine. Russo was like it was bumpy as hell. Russo rescues Leroy at one point in this episode, which is great. But the real thing that made me laugh out loud was when after that little tussle that these two guys had with the interlopers that came into the room to attack them. His first question was, how's my hair? So, I mean, that made me laugh right there that he's concerned with his looks, like after a tussle that he almost died and he wants to know how his hair looks. So that made him my favorite character so far.
How did you hear he was Italian?
They made an offhand reference to it when they were first introduced. Russo is also an Italian name. And then he says something about how he's greasy, which is like a Stephen King. Stephen King has like definite stereotypes that he uses, and a greasy Italian is definitely one of them. And that's me. I'm also Italian, so I like Italian characters.
He's a greasy Italian that really likes Chinese food, apparently, because he was complaining about there's no Chinese restaurant in town.
He's cultured. My favorite kid so far is Marge. I liked her delivery. I think out of all the kids, she gave the most, in my opinion, she gave the most convincing delivery. Outside of Ronnie, I thought there was some struggling with the child acting. And you mentioned how Phil, you liked his lines. His lines were funny. I'm not sure if they were delivered well. So like when I was watching these child actors, the only one that I didn't really question was Marge. I just liked her vibe. I liked the way she delivered her stuff. And more importantly, she wears glasses. She talks about how her optometrist is a sadist. And we know that's going to come up later in the episode, because when you see like the trailer for like the rest of the season, you see that at some point she either loses her eye or she has like an eye injury. So that always draws me, because I famously, everybody knows that I've lost the vision in one of my eyes. So that always draws me to like those one-eyed characters. So Marge is in that category. I don't know her last name. I looked everywhere for her last name.
Yeah, I didn't get her last name either.
I was really bummed out about that. But those are my big two right there, Russo and Marge. So those were our favorite characters. Did you have any other characters you wanted to talk about before we go into our big three?
No, I don't think so. I've talked about everybody I had down.
I think everybody I'm going to bring up, we can bring up within these characters. So the first one I wanted to talk about that I think is going to be the most, that'll have the most things to talk about is Lily. And I have a little paragraph here I wrote just basically introducing us to Lily. And I swear I wrote it. There's no AI. I didn't cheat. This is what I wrote. This is my observation of Lily. Lily Bambridge lost her dad recently from an accident at the pickle plant. I should have said canning plant that he worked at. She has been unfairly dubbed Loony Lily by her classmates after her stay at Juniper Hill. Her friend Marge still grudgingly sticks by her side. Lily joins up with a few of her classmates to try to piece together what happened to her friend Maddie after she heard some voices through the pipes in her bathroom. She blames herself for her father's death, for Maddie's death, and now possibly for Teddy, Phil, and Susie's deaths as well. So yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to bring up Lily, is how much baggage she is now carrying, especially after this first episode and seeing everyone dying, because we know that she already felt bad about her dad and Maddie as it is. Like she feels like she let Maddie down with that whole situation in the standpipe. I don't know how she can blame herself for that, but I do know that that is a big risk to take. If you are a guy and you have a platonic friend that's a girl and y'all share a moment and like you're Maddie, you're like 11 years old and you're brave enough to go for the kiss and then it's rejected, that's a lot of emotions there. And most 11-year-old kids don't know how to handle that other than just simply running away because they don't know how to deal with the situation. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that to say that I'm saying that Lily is in no way responsible for Maddie's death, and she does not have to carry that. For God's sakes, the fireworks were still going off when Maddie ran out of there. So he definitely ran away way too early. Mm-hmm. I liked how you brought up that she had that turtle bracelet that's protecting her, because that's one of my biggest notes that I'd no longer have to say is that she carries that turtle bracelet, and she still carries it now because she lives through the story.
Yeah. Which hand, hand was she? Sorry. I was just, at the end of the episode, I couldn't tell what happened to her hand, and I thought she had lost her hand, but she's just holding somebody else's hand.
She's holding Susie's hand. Yes.
I figured that out. I had to watch it on my computer, my laptop screen, to be able to see it correctly. But yeah, she's carrying that as her lucky charm. But yeah, she's got a lot of guilt for these things. She did remind me of her and Marge had a lot of Jonas and Bartosz chemistry going on, you know, like the whole, she's feeling bad about her life and feeling like the weird kid at school. And then she's got her friend Marge that seems to be a little more accepted, but then Marge kind of uses that as a weapon. I covered for you, and you know, kind of like you owe me, or I'm covering for you, so you should be grateful to me. But I was kind of surprised to learn that Lily and Maddie were friends, because I was getting the feeling that Maddie really had no friends. Without taking anything away from his discussion, we want to keep that separate. But seeing that they kind of had a bond in some way and they were buddies enough that he was willing to bring her to his special hideout. And she seemed to genuinely need someone to talk to that was more empathetic or a better listener than Marge could be. So she was really needing somebody to talk to, but maybe she wasn't ready to make it a romantic relationship. And poor little Maddie just didn't see the signs correctly. So you do kind of wish that maybe he had stayed, or, you know, it could have, because I was like, well, don't leave her alone, because now she's got to come down this creepy sandpipe in the dark by herself.
Yep. Same thoughts.
And I guess from here, do we think that from here he went to the movie theater, like directly from this standpipe incident, and got killed that night?
I don't think so, because that happened on July 4th. And the night of the incident, it was snowing. So
No,
I
it
think
was New Year's. The fireworks
yeah,
were New
that's
Year's
right.
fireworks.
That's right. It was New Year's. So yeah, there's a okay. I was thinking they were 4th of July fireworks. I said that earlier on.
They were wearing winter hats.
Well, some things aren't always clear to Stevie over here. So yeah, that's good thoughts that way. I do think that she wasn't looking for any kind of romance, and a kiss would only complicate things. She likes Maddie, that she can talk to him and that she's comfortable around him.
Yeah.
And now that this kiss came up, that kind of, of course it's going to throw her off. I mean, if she was in normal circumstances and she was telling Maddie about her father's situation. So of course she's upset. That was really bad timing I'm put the blame fully in Maddie's court here. That was just, I know New Year's Eve, you're supposed to get kisses and stuff, but just bad timing. You just read the room wrong, buddy.
But I thought that it was very brave of her to come back to this thing and talk to these boys that I guess these kids never interact before at school other than they walked in the same locker, because you remember that Teddy was the one that was like, was Lily just checking us out? I don't know what he meant by that, but I don't know if he meant checking out like, hey, but he noticed she was looking at them. And so that was,
which is probably unusual because probably girls don't notice them. So he was like, wow, girls looked at us today. That's interesting. It's a banner day today. The pickle incident, that's just cruel. Mm-hmm. And it's expensive cruelty too. They filled her locker up with these big jars of pickles. It's very cruel. It was cruel of her not to clean up the glass afterwards. She just ensconced off. But yeah, that just kind of shows all the kids in school are kind of, I don't know, unfeeling, I would suppose, or more on the level of the dairy madness, we'll say. One thing about that turtle that I noticed right away was that he was, handing out flyers and he had his anti-nuclear catchphrase, and some jerk kid walked past him and smacks the flyers out of his hand. And I thought that was a pretty, apt description of the turtle Maturin is existing there in Derry, trying to be the sign of good, the sign of luck. And then some crappy kid from Derry just walks by and just smacks stuff out of his hand. And that's just representative of the culture of Derry, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's not nice people.
No. Yeah, that standpipe situation, it's a great place to hang out. We said this before. I don't know why more people aren't hanging out there because it's it's a pretty prime location. And that is eventually where I think that's where she comes and takes her first step at opening up to Teddy and Phil. She's waiting there at the standpipe for them at one point to talk to them because she's never talked to them before, but she knows that, or she thinks that they're Maddie's friends. Mm-hmm. And we find out that they're not really Maddie's friends. Maddie was just kind of a guy that was kind of on their level, but it seemed like he was not really, they didn't really enjoy his company. Is that the same vibe that you got too?
Right, because Phil says we only brought him here one time.
And yeah, they were being bribed to show up at his birthday party, and they didn't even show up to that. So
with candy.
Yeah.
Not cash.
Not cash. If it was cash, it'd be really bribing. But since it's candy, it's kind of pseudo bribing. Another thing about the standpipe too, I know they all meet up there, and I'm getting ready to talk about that. But Phil, one of the very first scenes of the episode is Phil up there. He's watching all the planes come in, and he does a lot of ranting, a lot of conspiracy talk. He talks really fast and loose. But some of the things he's saying, I think could come to pass. He has this theory about all the planes that are coming into Derry. And he's like, well, that plane that just came in, that's just a small passenger plane, whatever. But we've had all these other planes come in, and he has this book that shows all the planes coming into Derry. Mm-hmm. And he's like, why would all these planes be coming here? There's no reason for them to come here with, these big payloads, these big carloads. And we know that they're building the B-52 bomber there because Leroy talks about that pretty openly. But they also have that big, top secret area.
Right. Special project area.
And I believe that maybe some of the materials that they're flying in for that special project are some of these planes that Phil was clocking as they were going past.
Yeah. I mean, we know that we'll call them Losers Club electees because they haven't officially been invited to the Losers Club. They're just nominees. They're pledges
All right,
of the fraternity.
all
right. We know that they all have special abilities. They have special talents that make them unique. So I don't doubt that Phil is onto something more than he even knows, except for the men and the nipples thing. I don't think that's going to come to pass. But maybe some of these things about aliens and weird life forms that who knows, that maybe Phil's onto something there.
Another cool thing about the standpipe meeting, when they all meet up at the standpipe, I think this is the second standpipe meeting where we have Lily, Phil, and Teddy. This is the morning after Teddy had seen the human skin lamp. And he's throwing up into the bucket. Like they're meeting and he's heaving because he's like remembering like how gross this thing was. You obviously remember the throw up scene, I would hope. Do you remember like in the library, the next scene after that, they go to the library with Susie and they're looking at the microfiche machine. Mm-hmm. Susie's being annoying. Yeah. And Phil is like, go find a book. Go find me a book called
Bucket Full of Cupcakes.
Bucket Full of Cupcakes. That's exactly what we just saw at the Derry standpipe, is we saw Teddy throw up a bucket full of cupcakes because that's the bucket that he was throwing up into.
There was a bucket, but I don't know if there were any cupcakes, but
it was absolutely cupcakes.
Where does he get cupcakes? There was a birthday party?
There must have been. I know I'm right. Well, pretty soon after that scene, after the library scene, they find out that like the last place that Maddie was seen alive was at the Capitol Theater. So the three kids, including Lily, because that's who we're talking about, they hightail it over there to the Capitol Theater. Well, they don't go to the Capitol Theater first. They go to Ronnie's house, her domicile first. And they find out that both Ronnie and Lily had a very similar experience with the drain pipes, hearing the same song from the Music Man out of the drain pipes. So it's at this point, I'm kind of leading us up to our final scene here with Lily anyway. They decide that they don't have VCRs, they don't have DVDs like we do, and they can't go to YouTube. So it's really nice that they happen to know the movie theater runner's daughter so she can go and cue up the Music Man and they can sit and they can watch the movie because they feel like, since they have this similar experience involving the musical, the Music Man, that if they watch that scene that the song is from, perhaps they might, pick up some sort of clue about Maddie. Seems far-fetched in my opinion, but it's a way to move the plot forward. So that's what we're doing. I really like the crying scene. That was a really touching scene to me. The scene when the four kids are sitting in the theater, the four kids, including little Susie, because Ronnie is up queuing up the Music Man up in the projector's booth. And the four kids are sitting there in the dark and they're thinking about how they've done Maddie wrong. And they're all kind of blaming themselves for Maddie's death. And they're all having like a little cry about it. And I told you before, I don't blame Lily at all. The other two guys, maybe they could have been a little nicer to Maddie. Okay. I gotta say they could have been nicer to Maddie. But certainly it's not any of their faults. But I think that's a common thing that people feel, especially when someone dies unexpectedly, and especially if you had an interaction with them before that death, to kind of feel that remorse and to feel that internally. Something I've been feeling recently, Lindsay, because a friend of mine has recently died. Same thing. We had an experience very close to right before he died. And I keep thinking to myself, like, what could I have done? I was in that situation. So I think to have this come up, to have that moment come up at like in a horror show, Welcome to Derry, before a big horror scene. I mean, I think that's kind of poetic. I really like that scene.
Yeah, I liked it too. It was a well done scene.
Like I said, I didn't like the way some of the kids were acting, but that one, I gave it a pass because I was feeling it. I was feeling it with them too. But yeah, then the movie comes on, and this was definitely one of my favorite moments that I just kind of loved. Was they're watching the Music Man, And then there on the screen is their buddy Maddie. He's in the movie and they're kind of taken aback. This calls back to a scene. I don't know if it was if it was in the movie or not, but in the show for sure, they're watching some old films, looking at some old pictures, and like Bill Denbrow's mom like slowly turns into Pennywise and comes out of the screen at them. So I thought this was a neat callback to that. How, somebody they know is in the movie that they're watching and then they kind of comes to life at them. The kind of thing I don't want to ever happen to me. And that's the kind of thing I think about in movie theaters. Like, this is where somebody could kill you and like they could get away with it. They can wait till the moment in the movie where everybody's going to yell, and that's when they can stab you, and then you yell and nobody knows. So that's one of my irrational fears, is getting killed in a movie theater while watching a horror movie.
So you really don't like the movie Scream 2 then?
No, I do not, because that was my fear come to life. I did not like it one bit. It might have been around that time that I decided to stop liking horror movies.
Yeah.
But that leads us to the big scene, Lindsay. And this is, a lot of people like this ending scene. It got a lot of good reviews. I wasn't a big fan of it. It was a bit campy for my taste. What is your review of this scene? The big ending scene where the crazy bat baby comes out and attacks everyone. What are your thoughts about this scene?
I thought it was terrifying. I thought it was really well done. We're sort of being pretty fluid with our show order here, but I don't like the design of the baby, but I thought everything else was, the design of the baby is pretty horrifying, and I'm not saying it couldn't be effective, but I found it like a little extreme for what was needed to make this terrifying. The scene is already terrifying without the naked mutant baby. But this is not how I was expecting things to end. I thought Pennywise would show up.
Right.
Just like in that scene, they would watch the movie and they would turn the lights on and Pennywise would go away. That's not what happened. And we had two characters die, and it was really brutal, a really brutal death that you're not expecting. Very gushy, very slimy, very sludgy. If you don't like body horror, you're not gonna like this. But I thought it was effective. I was shocked. I was like, that's how it ends? Okay. And where are they gonna go with this next? Because you just killed off half of your kids.
I was engaged by this scene and I was laughing along with it. Like, I know you're not supposed to laugh, but that's an emotion that can happen when you're watching scenes like this. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't totally on board with it. But I will speak to the baby, though. I know a couple interesting things about it is like they say, they being Andy Machete, says that this baby they designed also has like and what do they call it when a baby absorbs?
A conjoined twin.
It absorbed its twin, so it had like half of its twin inside of it. And this monster is like a callback to the book It, when the adults are all meeting up at a Chinese restaurant. They open up their fortune cookies. One of them sees like a horrifying like doll baby, and one of them sees like a horrifying like bat creature that starts flying around everywhere. So this creature that we see is like a conglomeration of those two. You say we don't see Pennywise. We don't see Pennywise the clown, but we definitely saw it. Not twice, like multiple times within this episode, right? Because the essence of Pennywise was right there in that little baby, but it didn't take his Pennywise form. Mm-hmm. And I believe from what I've been hearing from the production team that we're not actually going to see the Pennywise form until like the tail end of this season.
Yeah, I think, and that threw me off when people were saying we don't see Pennywise. They mean we don't see Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, but we're seeing we're seeing it. We're seeing Bob Gray. We're seeing the horror of the town. We're seeing that just in different forms than we would maybe be thinking. But you don't want to rehash the past. You don't want to be the same. Otherwise, people complain that it's just a rehash.
Sure. My last note about Lily is that she is a real scream queen. Like, I wasn't 100% on board with this actress, but she has a great scream. And like the scream that she ends this episode with is like an epic one, like with a great wind up, great build up, great delivery, great face. She's got a future in horror films. Mm-hmm. It's a hell of a scream she's got.
Yeah.
So we discussed the ending of the episode. The beginning of the episode is going to be based around our second main character of this episode, in my opinion anyway, the Maddie story. So Maddie, he's a smaller, less developed kid than his classmates at Derry. He's picked on for that. He enjoys self-soothing by sneaking into the movie theater and sucking on his pacifier. I think this pacifier is a callback to the fact that in the book, he is just a baby when he dies, is my guess. He is caught sneaking in to the movie theater and manages to run free, only to be scooped up by a seemingly normal nuclear family that quickly turns evil. The mother gives birth to a Pennywise-style monster. We don't know if Maddie has been murdered or if he's being held captive under the sewers. Now, to that, I can say to myself, Lindsay, I'm pretty sure he's being held captive under the sewers, right? Is that the gist that you got, is that Maddie is still alive and being held captive?
I don't know. No, I don't think that. I feel that in the universe of Derry, the kids, when they get caught by Pennywise, they get killed, and he makes it seem like they're still alive to torment people that are alive.
I would disagree with that, because most of the kids that they find the bodies of kids all over the place, and that's how they know they've been murdered. There are missing kids, but like they find the body of Eddie Cochran, they find the body of Maddie in the book.
They're dead bodies.
They're dead bodies, yes.
Yes. So Pennywise isn't keeping kids alive under the sewer. But right. I mean, like when Georgie is taken by Pennywise, and Bill is seeing all these visions of Georgie, I don't think he's really seeing Georgie.
Well, they found Georgie's body at the beginning of all that. Like Georgie's body is discovered immediately. So we know Georgie's dead. They make a big point throughout this episode of saying that his body was never found. So they assume that he ran away.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they didn't find, but I think we pretty clearly saw his body bits being pushed through the car along with that pacifier.
You're probably right, but let's see. We don't know. So I kind of think he's still alive down there. And I think that was kind of like Lily and the gang's mission. You could be exactly right. You probably are right, Lindsay. He probably is dead. I mean, that's what most of us are led to believe. But I just heard a couple clues in here that made me think that possibly he's alive. Possibly we might see a rescue mission. Maybe not.
I don't. I think it's kind of like when somebody loses a loved one and they feel guilt. In a lot of horror movies, they'll send a vision to that person to make those kids feel guilty. I don't see it that way. I don't see that Maddie's still alive and he's being kept prisoner somewhere. I see that he was killed by it, but he wants to instill fear in other kids, so he makes them think that he's being tortured.
Okay. All right.
Well, I was just thinking about, I don't have a lot of knowledge about his character necessarily, but I'm speculating is what I'm saying. I don't have any facts other than what you've said, but something I was seeing was that he sees his vision of Pennywise first as this messed up family. And he thought they were a nice family at first when they picked him up. They were very comforting. My thought about the attack being done by a baby seemed really insidious because of Maddie's habit of sucking on a pacifier. Almost like, you're a baby, here's a baby, but it's a really weird looking baby that's nightmarish. So I felt like that was kind of evil that they embodied it as a baby. You had a different thought about baby. I like both of our theories about that. But he's taken on this habit of self-soothing with this pacifier. So you can speculate that his family life isn't that great.
Right.
And I also wonder if the mom's words, she was having her little boy, little Ray, sweet little Ray, she was having him spell certain words. And I wondered if the words had meaning beyond just, these are scary words. She mentions my little harlot, which is like slut shaming. Mm-hmm. She mentions a vasectomy, so there's marital conflict. Mm-hmm. She mentions the word necrosis, which is, I guess, like premature death. Mm-hmm. And then she mentions the word cadaver and strangulation. And so then I was like, well, if you put these words together, because we know that Pennywise, or it, targets kids with fears that match the situation that they're
Right.
in. So
Right.
I didn't come to anything firm about that, but I was wondering if these words were things that he had already experienced or heard people saying in his family, and that is troubling to him already. So we might as well use it for extra nightmare fuel to have these family bring up these issues. And plus, the mom has this really messed up birth in the car, so maybe he's seen some live, been where when one of his brothers or sisters, was born and it wasn't successful and there was a failed birth, and that's made the family sad. And so I was just, in my mind, I was going, this can't just be random that's this thing. Like, it's targeted specifically to Maddie's situation and the things that really fuel his fears already.
This is what I think Pennywise, or it, was thinking when it came up with this whole scenario for Maddie. I think Pennywise was like, oh, Maddie, you hate your family? You think your family is so awful? You wish you had the perfect family? Well, let me show you a perfect family, and let me show you how a perfect family really is. I think he was trying to show us that, like, this is supposedly the perfect, loving family here, but underneath there is despicable horror. Mm-hmm. Her words at first that the kid was spelling, that Ray was spelling, were just innocuous, fun words, and they got more crazy as it went on. Because like you said, it started with kidnapping and then it went all the way to like cadaver. So I do think that they were describing what they're going to do to him in a very like veiled type of way. And yeah, I just think it's basically a subversion of the American family. And that whole birth thing, that really threw me through a loop through the very beginning. Like you said, you were floored by this episode. I was absolutely floored by that. Not expecting that, not entirely loving it. But let me tell you, like, one of my favorite moments all around occurred during this scene is when the baby is like still attached by the umbilical cord and it's kind of like flying around, but it's still tethered to the mom and she's like pulling it around by its cord. I love that. I mean, there's nothing better than like a flying bat baby being attached to an umbilical cord to its mother. I mean, it's nothing that we expected to see on a Sunday night, and we got to see this. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I know there's purpose behind the baby. On the radio they were talking about radiation and how it's causing birth defects in kids, and so obviously this is an embodiment of nuclear fears through this baby, in addition to possible other things like that you mentioned. But I guess one more thing I wanted to mention about Maddie's arc is that I liked how when he was in the movie theater, he was sucking on the pacifier and the woman turned around to give him a dirty look, but she didn't give him any weird looks about the fact that he was sucking on a pacifier. She was just upset that she couldn't hear her movie.
Yeah.
She just kind of like, she doesn't go like, young man, like she's just like, please be quiet because I would like to hear my movie. So she was very accepting for an uptight community member.
I mentioned Maddie is sitting in there self-soothing with his pacifier, but then we see another teenage boy in there, and he is also self-soothing by sucking on his girlfriend's neck. Like I never made the connection until just now that both Maddie and that teenage boy have a little something in common. They're like, they both need to like suck on something for soothing.
It's the habit of oral pleasure, I guess. We're both experiencing.
But yeah, I had no more further notes about Maddie. I think that's something when I was stumbling for my words so much at the beginning there. What I was trying to get at is that a lot of people felt that we were going to see our main characters, like with this Teddy and this Phil, and we did not get that. So Maddie, of course, we already know that he's dead, but we've seen him alive also through Lily's eyes through some flashback sequences. Mm-hmm. So I've heard some people say on Reddit that perhaps we will continue to see Teddy and Phil and Maddie via some flashback scenes. like from Lily, or maybe like just some general school flashback scenes, which I'm sure that will happen, but I don't think that it's going to keep them as dominant figures in our story going forward. Because this group was not really a group. And that was the main point that I was struggling so hard to return to my mind. And now it has. We were used to the Losers Club, and they're all like this cohesive gang of kids that hang out with each other. Now we have these 4 or 5 kids, but they're not really a tight-knit group. They barely know each other with the exception of Phil and Teddy. Like they're good friends, and then Maddie is kind of their friend. And then Lily is kind of Maddie's friend. And Lily is definitely not Teddy and Phil's friend. So this is not like a cohesive gang. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we can't see a lot of flashback scenes involving Lily and these other characters because they didn't spend a lot of time together other than mundane crap like being in school or passing in the hallway. So that's the point I was going to make at that time that I thought was such a great point, was that I doubt that we're going to see these people in a huge capacity later on in the show. I think this show is going to be focused more on Ronnie, Lily, Will Hanlon when he comes to play. I don't know who else. Perhaps this Vince individual that Marge has a crush on. I don't know.
Or it could be they all, I mean, especially since you mentioned Ronnie dies in the books.
Well, that's in the book.
We have to remember that the Losers Club is the one that was successful, not these kids. So it's possible that none of them are going to survive, honestly. That's more likely because the Losers Club is the one. These kids the Losers Club weren't a club either until the day of the apocalyptic rock fight. You know, before that day, it was really just, Bill and Richie and Eddie. It was just the 3 of them. And then the other ones they met, you know, so it wasn't like they all had a bunch of memories either before that day. So I think this group could have become a Losers Club because you even see by that time in the theater, you know, Lily's trying to protect the little sister and Lily and Ronnie are trying to help each other. So the kids have this way of becoming close quicker than we do. So I think they could have been a Losers Club, but they don't survive. So that doesn't happen.
Just a couple flashbacks. Well, that brings us to our last guy, the adults. We got to talk about some grown-ups now. That's so boring. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about Leroy Hanlon. My little blurb about Leroy goes like this. Leroy is a major in the Air Force and has been assigned to Derry, Maine. After a troubling encounter in Korea, he is met with some blatant racism from one of his troops. He plans to move his family to Derry, Maine, and he has a troubling encounter with his opposition as they try to get information about the B-52 bomber from him. That's worded kind of weirdly, but let me start at the beginning here. April 1962 is when Leroy flies into Derry, Maine with Paulie Russo, his little buddy there. These guys are like complete opposites from one another, where I think like Paulie Russo is more like a tell it like it is kind of guy. This Major Leroy Hanlon is more of like he's going to play by the rules. Russo accuses him of sucking up, and Hanlon's like, yeah, so what? So what of it? We meet Colonel Fuller, I believe that's the guy's name, or is it General Shaw? Which of those individuals?
Fuller is the ranking officer, and he said something like his XO or something. So Shaw is really in charge, but below Shaw is Fuller and then Hanlon.
I had a hard time telling Colonel Fuller and General Shaw apart. I hate to say it. So which of those individuals is the one that inadvertently came to Leroy's rescue when he had a disgruntled troop? Was that General Shaw?
Well, I didn't think Shaw was around because he said, "I'm here to greet you." So I thought it was Fuller the whole time. I didn't think we met Shaw. I thought his name was dropped, but he didn't enter the chat, so to speak.
This is a situation where we hopefully got the name right, but we could have it wrong. This Colonel Fuller, well, first off, when Leroy Hanlon goes to address his new troops, He gets an okay greeting from most of them, but one guy is really standoffish on the side over there, refuses to salute to him.
Mm-hmm.
And Colonel Fuller has to come to his rescue. It's a good thing he showed up too, because it didn't look like Major Leroy Hanlon was going to really handle the situation really that well. When the colonel showed up, everybody kind of snapped to, made it real snappy, kind of like, you don't do this, you're getting court-martialed. You understand the situation you're in here, soldier? Mm-hmm. He does. So he comes and rescues him. They talk in the office a little bit about, the racial disrespect. And we learn that Hanlon is a bit of an optimist. He thinks that the wrong things that happen in the world can be made better by the right things that already exist within our world. Super optimistic talking, especially here in Derry. I hope he survives more than one day. We already mentioned that they drove past the Special Projects Barrack, which is, we're sure that's going to come into play later. Maybe that's even where they create. I mean, this is supposed to be supernatural. It is supposed to be a supernatural being. But if they're doing like some weird kind of like military experimental kind of stuff, mm-hmm. maybe they could make a crazy baby with bat wings, perhaps, in that big old special project building. I mean, that's always a possibility.
Well, you mentioned that he crashed here on the Earth, so maybe they built a base on top of that spot.
Yeah. That's a great conclusion. We haven't seen that happen yet. I know that scene is going to happen at some point in the season. Mm-hmm. But yeah, maybe we better get the GPS coordinates on that and see if that's right. Ultimately, though, Leroy Hanlon goes to bed that night, thinking everything's okay. He's got the respects of his troop. That one really assholey guy, he's out of here. He got sent somewhere else for another mission. Duty. Yeah, latrine duty. Thank goodness. So he goes to bed that night thinking everything's all good. And we hear like a little noise. And my first thought is Pennywise is going to show up. And when we see like a figure outside the window, like I was positive that was Pennywise standing outside the window. It's not though. It's these three guys. They sound like they're American because they speak English, but they must be part of an espionage troupe, possibly Russian or maybe funded by the Russians, to come here and to, at gunpoint, force Hanlon to give them some information about that B-52. He doesn't give up any information. He's steadfast. And my favorite guy, Paulie Russo, shows up and rescues him. These uniforms these guys are wearing are pretty scary. They got the masks on. And like, I noticed that Hanlon is like, I could hear you a lot better if you took your mask off. I think that was a pretty wise thing to say, because it's like he could maybe get a glimpse of his mouth or his nose and maybe ID this guy, but you can't tell who they are. Mm-hmm. My last thought before I throw it back to you is, out of all these characters and all these costumes and everything that we've seen in this one episode, I think the runaway best costume idea for Halloween would be these guys that came in and like tried to like, I don't know, what are they torturing Will? Or are they just threatening Will? They're threatening Will. Yeah. That would be a pretty good Halloween costume. You wouldn't have to explain it. It covers your face.
Isn't it the creature from the Black Lagoon outfit?
It kind of looks like it. I think it's more of like a scuba kind of outfit. I think it's a functional outfit in the military, and they're kind of subverting it in a way. Which leads me, this is an off-the-wall question. You said that your friend Deb had like a necromancer kind of vibe to her Halloween costume. What was your Halloween costume last night?
I didn't really wear a costume. I had put on my Maxine jacket. I'm not really a dress up for Halloween girl.
I mean, I'm not either, but I just assumed that you were.
I'm not. I didn't grow up that way. We didn't really do trick or treating. Usually if we did something, we'd go to the nursing home. I think I've already told you about my creepy nursing home Halloween experiences where we'd have senior citizen. Usually my mom would just make up a costume with whatever we had in the house. One time I was a little prairie girl. One time I put a tutu on my head and I was a clown, so it was just whatever we had in the house. Put a sheet over your head, you're a ghost. Congratulations. It wasn't anything that creative. I put on my Maxine jacket, which is from the movie Maxine.
That's
So
good enough.
it,
A jean jacket, right? Isn't that what she wore? Like a studded jean
no,
jacket?
it's like a green. It's like a green letter jacket. It looks like I lettered in some. I wear it, and people ask me what sport it's for, and I'm like, it says 66, 67. I'm
Oh,
like,
man.
yeah,
Heck
I'm
yeah.
like, that's not my year, but you really think that
Gen
yeah.
Z loves it, though. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, did you have anything about Leroy before I start transitioning to
Leroy.
Halloween?
Oh, well, I guess the most interesting thing about his kind of journey is who attacked him. You know,
Yes.
is it actually, you know, my first thought was it was the racist guys getting revenge for, so they were just using it as an excuse
Me
to beat
too.
him up. And then I saw in a Reddit post that people were speculating that this is a test to see if he's a person they can trust.
Wow.
Kind of like in the movie, remember in the movie Tenet, they took that guy to the train tracks and removed all of his teeth to see if he was still, and he didn't. But we did see Dick Halloran checking him out and kind of sizing up. And I feel like, did we see Dick Halloran outside of the window? I thought, you know, there was a couple times you see people through a window. I thought one of those was Dick Halloran, but maybe I wasn't seeing clearly. But I thought maybe he was outside. And I thought I was like, Dick Halloran's going to rescue him. But no, it was his buddy Paulie.
Yep. Yeah, Dick Halloran didn't say a word this episode. We didn't hear anything of. We just got a lot of smoky glances from him. Like he was clocking Leroy like, oh, okay, all right. So this is the new guy. Okay. But yeah, it definitely wasn't him outside the window because like I said, I thought it was Pennywise. And when I did my rewatch, I was like, I wonder if maybe there's like a Pennywise hint to one of these guys. But no, absolutely not. I like your Reddit post theorizing that it could be a test because I'm thinking Russians, like I already said, or like, you know, somebody being paid by the Russians. It seems like kind of too obvious though. So this whole testing thing, and he did it. He like his mettle is good. He would rather die than give up those secrets. So he's our true blue straight edge man here.
Yeah, he said, you're going to have to shoot me.
Yep. But speaking of Halloween, this Halloween, Lindsay, you're not going to be dressing up or trick-or-treating either. You're going to be hanging out at home watching episode 2 of Welcome to Derry, ... It. Because that's when they're going to be airing this next episode is like on Halloween. They're getting it to us a few days early.
That's right. That's right. And I might be handing out candy, but I'll watch the episode after I get home. So you can't tell me what to do.
Oh, well, okay. I was just suggesting. It was a mere suggestion that perhaps you could do that. That is what I'll be doing, I should say. Kids never come here to our house, by the way. Never, ever. Like I think 4 years ago, one family showed up and that's it. It's just not a trick-or-treat neighborhood. Mm-hmm. But I got lots of candy anyway, always ready.
Yeah, I mean, kids don't come to my house either, but my friend told me kids do come to her house and she wants me to come to her house and hand out candy because she's going to work until 7. So she wants me to come to her house and hand out candy on her behalf. So I'm still thinking about it. I'm like, I got to go to the grocery store and get food because that's payday also.
Yeah. You got to be realistic about these things.
But I will definitely, normally we don't get the episode until Sunday evening. So I'll have a couple extra days to watch it a few times.
Well, because of time, we ran much longer than I expected. Is it okay if we go ahead and skip over to our final review and our final thoughts segment?
Yes, I already talked about all of my favorite and least favorite moments already. So
me too. That's why I wanted to skip it. I'm going to go for you first. Is that okay if I ask you for your final review and your final thoughts?
Sure, do it.
And let's rate this thing, okay? I always thought like a scale of like 5 stars is like a perfect rating system. Do you like the 5 or do you like the 10 better? What's your preference?
I'm used to 5 because of Letterboxd.
Me too. So I was going to suggest we rate it on a scale of like 1 to 5 clowns, but we didn't see any clowns this episode. So do you have any suggestions? Like maybe 1 to 5
mutant babies?
mutant baby dolls.
Or 1 to 5 turtles.
I like that way better. 1 to 5 turtles. Thank you, Lindsay, for setting us straight. All right. What are your thoughts here?
Well, I really liked this opening episode, but I also I want to leave room to grow. So I'm going to give it a decent 3 out of 5 turtles.
All right. I didn't like this episode as much as I wanted to. I really wanted to like it, and I didn't dislike it, as I said before, but I didn't love it either. I think there might have been a few things about it that I strongly disliked. So I'm going to have to give this one 2 evil mutant clown babies for this episode, which is definitely room to grow there.
So even though you like turtles, you're going to go back to mutant clown babies?
Oh. I give this one 2 turtles. Turtle power. Thank you for setting me straight for the 8th time.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, last thoughts or plugs, Lindsay?
I think for plugs, what I will say is that the Arts and Faith group that I work with, we have chosen our next project, which I've been announcing it on socials a little bit, but the list the group has decided to work on, which will not be revealed until 2026, is the top 25 spiritually significant films directed by women. We just finished wrapping up nominations. There are 105 films in the running, and now people have until the end of spring to watch as many of those films as possible. We are still discussing if we're going to release our nominations publicly or not, or if we're going to keep that under wraps until the list is revealed. But just to remind you, if you go to artsandfaith.com, artsandfaith.com, just how it's spelled, you can see other lists the group has made, most recently being our 2025 top 100 spiritually significant films list. And it's a great group that I really enjoy doing in addition to my solo ventures.
Yeah, right on. I like y'all's 25 list things, and I like the one this year. And I like the fact that we helped you find another female director from the film Frida. I hope that made it onto your list, at least in the runnings. So we'll see if it's in the top 25 or not. I don't have any plugs except for this one. I want people to continue listening to One of My Stories and Sweet Child of Time, listening to our Welcome to Derry recaps. And there's plenty of stuff in both of our backlogs. Both Lindsay and I have been podcasting for years, so we have tons of stuff to explore in our back catalogs. That's pretty much all I got for plugs, is just plugging this very show. So keep listening to it. Next episode will be episode 2, the Halloween episode. I think Lindsay's going to be the driver of that episode. So look for a more cohesive and structured podcast that week. And until then, let's see, what's a good outro here? Trouble is going to find us, Lindsay. Trouble. We are OUT out.
OUT out. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.